Hi, welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Today we partnered again with Plumsail, and today we're going to see one of their next software solutions, Plumsail Forms, or better said, Plumsail Public Forms, since they offer two different types of forms. As you can see here on the website, we have here the various software solutions that they offer. And last video we talked about documents and we saw that nice use case. And this time we are going to concentrate on Plumsail Forms. Before we move further into the video, please make sure that you like it. If you do so, then that you subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any future videos. Have fun. So let's jump into Plumsail Forms. By clicking there. You don't need to take any notes as for the websites and so on where you can find everything, since I'm going to link everything in the video description. So here you can see that in the plumsail.com/forms we have a little bit of a description of how forms looks like and how they are built or how you can use them. So here you can see that we have public web forms and SharePoint forms. SharePoint forms, as I said, is something for another time, another video. So today we're going to concentrate on public web forms. If we scroll down a little bit, we can see here some demos. And the first one is design web form, where it's showcasing how you can design that web form. It looks very familiar to you if you have been using a bit of Power Apps. So it's built like that drag and drop concept, and it is very easy and intuitive to use. On the left-hand side, you have all the controls, fields, and containers. In the middle is the canvas, and on the right-hand side is that properties and that details and settings and so on and so forth for each control. And at the top you have some of the other features like saving, previewing, the settings, the theme, and so on and so forth. We're going to see that in the editor soon. Next, we have here the option to share it with our users, of course, because what good is a public form if we cannot share it with the users to gather that data? You can share it with internal users or with external users. You can embed it in whatever you want, maybe in a website, on other platforms, by using the special link that has when you create that form. And here, last but not least, collect and process submissions. Of course, after collecting the data, you want to continue doing something with that data, not just leave it there. You can download it from the Plumsail Public Forms site, from the editor, and view it, or maybe you can automate that, or you want to automate that process and move that data maybe into a SharePoint list. Something similar we're going to see today. What you can also do is combine the solutions Plumsail offers. For example, you can gather the data from public web forms, and then in combination with Plumsail documents that we saw in the previous video, you can generate maybe a PDF, a nicely looking PDF out of that data. Okay, but enough with theory. Let's see how we can use this in practice. And to do so, we can click here in this blue text called Public Web Forms, and that will bring us into the Public Web Forms site. So here we can see there are a couple of demos again that we can watch. If we scroll down, it's a bit more description of how it works. Design business web forms, share it with your users, collect and process submissions, the one we just discussed. Here's also a short list of the features. There are many more features in there, which we're going to see in a second. We have this drag and drop function where everything is very easy to use. You drag them and drop them in the canvas, and then you can put some logic in it, and you build your forms out of it. We have data tables, which is very useful if you want to grab some information from users in form of a data with columns and rows. We have the option of a signature. Maybe you want the user at the end of the form to sign it. Authentication is built in using Azure AD groups, for example. We have very customizable styling and branding, which means that you can customize your form, your public form, for your business and for your brand. And we have here the option, of course, to embed it. As I said, you can embed it in a website or maybe whatever platform you're using. And sharing, of course, with other people, and also building in external data sources. So the options that you offer the users to be able to select, maybe in a drop-down or in another selection option, don't have to be static. You can pull some external data in there and make it a bit more dynamic. So at the end, it might even feel like the user's using an application, not a simple form. And here's a big difference to Microsoft Forms, in my opinion. I love Microsoft Forms. I've been using them for a long time, also in my videos. But I think this is on another level. And it's even closer to Power Apps Canvas, in my opinion, than to Microsoft Forms. So let's see how good it is. So to try out, of course, you need to log into your account first or create one if you don't have any. And you can either try to create one of these forms from scratch, where from starting from blank, or you can use some of the templates which Plumsail offers. I think they are very, very nicely done, and they cover many familiar use cases which you're going to need to use a form like this. So this video, to make it a bit shorter, of course, we are going to start by using a template. So to do that, we can click here to templates, and here you can see how many templates Plumsail has already prepared, and they already look really, really nice. So you can start from here and then continue personalizing it a little bit more for your use case. The one that we are going to use today is called job application form. So let's search for that. Form. And there it is. So we can also start here by previewing it first to see if it suits our need, and then we can move to using this template. So let's take a look first. So this is the form, and this is one of my favorite features here, the option or the possibility to put the fields and the options that the user can select into containers. No? So this is one of the container options that you can use. We'll see there are other ones in a second. And it's called the wizard. And what it allows you is that you put some questions in the first position or in the first circle or, I don't know, part of the container. And then you put some other answer possibilities in the second, and so on and so forth. So this makes it a little bit more less overwhelming for the user if they see like one form with 30 questions, and it's a bit nicer to use. No, it's a little bit more on the better user experience direction. So here, for example, you can select some of the options. You can write here some salary, and then you can move here to the next section, and then you have other questions. I think it's really nice. What we can also see here is if the pre-built themes are something that we could work with, or maybe we need to create our own. Let's see, but we're not going to spend that much time in this video, so I'm just showing it to you so that you know you can customize this as well, of course. And yeah, if you are happy with this, you can start using this template from this button, or you can scroll down and see maybe some other templates which are related to this one might be a better fit. So for us, I think it's good enough, and we are going to start using this template. I will click here, and I think it will ask me to log in. Oh, it did automatically. Perfect. So here we are in the editor. Let's take a look. Okay, so as I said, I think the editor is very nicely done. It's very intuitive. It has a nice overview. Maybe I zoom in a little bit so that you can see the features here better. And we have here on the left-hand side the different types of controls, containers, fields, and so on and so forth that we can use in our form application. And here at the top, we have the different containers. And as I said, this wizard is one of those. This is this one here, the wizard. And we have a grid, option, stack, tabs, accordion, and so on. So the functionality is the same. What it changes is, of course, the layout and how the user will interact with those containers. Now we have here the wizard option. Let's try out maybe that stack option here at the bottom, and let's put some fields, maybe a text field, maybe a drop down. And as you can see, these are stacking next to each other. Now you can see it here in the icon, which shows these rows or whatever they are next to each other. It means that you put the fields next to each other. And if the space is not enough, then it will put it at the bottom. So this is another option to use for grouping the fields that you're using in your form. So I'm going to remove that because I want to stick with the wizard. And if we scroll down a little bit, we see here that we have many different fields like text, note, number, currency, toggle. So we are all familiar with this one. Important is, of course, attachments. You always want to allow the user to upload maybe a document or something, depending on the form type and scenario. And at the bottom we have then the different controls. For example, an image control on buttons, submission, so submit buttons, maybe a data table, as I said, very helpful, and also like something like an ink sketch where the user can sign. And that is something that we're going to try today as well. So what I want to add here, we have this position section, which has the position and the desired salary. We have here the personal details like first name, last name, address, and so on. We have here the employment history, which is a table, which is this data table control over here. And then we have here the resume, where we can write some words about ourselves and then attach something. So we have almost all the necessary and important controls and fields that you might need in such a form. What I want to show you is how easy it is to add a new section. So I'm going to click this plus icon here, and it directly add me a new step which I can use. I can double click here and I can rename it to maybe sign and send. And what happens is that this finish button automatically goes into the last bullet, if you call it bullet points or wizard step, which is very helpful. And as we see, this sign and send container section is empty. It marks it here if you click it. As you can see, it has this blue border. And this is empty, so what I want here is maybe a date and time. Time is not important, maybe a date field. So I'm going to drag and drop it in here, and this will be my signature date. And I want also the ink sketch option for the user, which is called then signature. So the user will be able to add the date and the signature. Similar when you sign a contract. Now you also have the date, the signature, the personal details with name and last name. We already have it in the second section, so that should be good to go. What you need to keep in mind here, if you continue using this data in Power Automate, for example, to automate other processes with this submitted data, you have here each field a title and a name. So the title is the one that you are seeing, so that display name, and the name is that internal name, which you are going to find in Power Automate, for example. So keep that in mind that it's a bit different. So in this case, the signature is the same, but here signature date, it removes that blank space and to make it easier for internal names to be easy to find and easy to use. So what I want to change is in the personal details. We scroll down, we have this phone field here, and I want to show you how much you can customize it. So here, for example, we have the mask, and this shows you, this shows the user what mask or what combination of numbers they can use for their phone number. So depending on where you are, of course. For example, in Germany, we will have 4 here, and this will be unnecessary. So this will be the mask for us in Germany. And similar, you can do it here for the email address, where you give this pattern. And it's very customizable. So that's what I want to show you as well. So, okay, then I think we saw enough on the fields and on this section here on the left-hand side, and how you can drag and drop and customize this canvas. Feel free to play around with it and ask me any questions in the comments if you have any. So I will try to answer them as good as I can, but you can see it's pretty straightforward and very intuitively done. So what we need to do next, or better said, actually first, is to save our form. So after saving the form, then it is able to start sharing it, and you can also preview the changes that you've done. Now you have this preview here, and you can check the submissions done by your users. What you need to take in consideration is that Plumsail, when you first start creating these forms, they go into a process called approval, or like an approval process from Plumsail. So before you are able to share it somewhere, Plumsail will have to go and review these forms that you've created and then approve them for you. This might need to happen 1 or 2 times, and after that, if you could have done it a couple of times, I said, you don't have to do that anymore. No? Then they approve all your future forms as well. So that's like a 1 or 2 time thing. But that's something you need to keep in mind, because it takes 1 or 2 hours, and don't think that something is not working. It's just a normal process for everyone when they start building these forms with the Plumsail forms. Okay, so now we have saved it, so actually we are ready to go, but let's take a look here at the top what we have. So we have here our design editor, and we are in the design mode at the moment, not in preview. And the next icon next to it is the theme section. Here you can see how much customization options you have with these standard theme settings, for example. You can change this default themes. Now you can make it here as you like, and these are some of the pre-built themes which you can use. This is from Plumsail, and you can even customize it further here, by putting your own codes. You have the font styles, which take a look how many fonts here. I don't even know how many they are. So if you can scroll so long at the bottom, so there are a lot of fonts, and things like borders and so on and so forth. It's able to customize. But if you want to go a step further, you can even put your own custom CSS here, so to make it even more professional looking. And if you want to go hardcore, you have here the JavaScript section where you can put all that code that you want in here. But I think that's next level. So if you're interested, here it is. The option is there. Go for it. But we're going to stick on the low code section of this building process. And next to it are some other settings, like, for example, time zone, languages. If you want to add additional views, maybe for mobile or tablet, you can have a different thank you message, maybe redirect your user after submitting that form to somewhere else, maybe your website or your profile or so on and so forth. Yeah, you have here like a timeout before the next submission so that they cannot spam it, and so on and so forth. So pretty helpful settings here. Here we have some sharing settings. This is a link that you can share with your users, and we have here this snippet which you can use to embed it on somewhere else, a page, for example. Next, we have here some access options where we can allow only authenticated users to join, and with a Microsoft account on Azure AD. Let's set that off for now. And here the notifications owners, notifying submitters, and then you can notify an owner or a team or none, and other options as well. Okay, so let's go on and preview our application or our form that we just built. And by clicking over here, it will open on a new tab, and this is how the user will be able to see it. So this is the finalized form now. And let's fill it out so that we can see how the submissions look like. But before we do that, we have here these other 2 options, and we did not create those views. As I said in the settings here, let's see here, this phone and tablet, we did not create those extra views, but Plumsail is generating them automatically. And the tablet one does not look that bad because it's also white, like on your desktop or laptop, but the phone one looks a bit weird. So I would suggest, if you want to preview this also on your phone, to go on and create a special view for your phone where you can use maybe a different container or arrange the fields a bit nicely. Okay, let's go back to our desktop version and fill it out with some demo information. So I'm applying for account manager. Let's say that this is my salary. This is my salary, and let's go next. So let's put here some information of that. Okay, I thought it would do the dots. Address is test. Oops. Test Street 1 or 21. Email, first name, last name at email.com. My phone is 0149, which is a prefix for Germany, and then that's how we write it. Let's click next. We have here some, please give details of relevant previous employments. Yeah. So this button here, it takes the German language from a browser, so don't worry about that. If your browser is in English, it will say in English, add a new row. So let's click on that. And let's say here, I don't know, test one company, test company, hire date was, oops, this week, leave date was today, phone, that one. And let's click here for another row, and this is pretty helpful. I think this is really nice. Let's put here test 2, company 2, and I was hired 14th. I left, I don't know, here, and I think it's enough. So let's click next, and then I am testing my first public form, and let me attach something. That one, for example, and you can even attach multiple, no? So you don't have to attach only one. Let's grab something else, that one as well, and click next. And here we have the signature date. I see that this field here is, for example, a bit too short. You can make it a bit wider because it's enough space here. And the signature field is also way too small, so I can show you now how to make it a bit bigger. Okay, so signature date, let's grab today, and here is my signature, and click finish. Now it says now thanks for submitting the form, and return to the form. So if we go here, we have this thank you message. Thank you for submitting the form. It's the one we see here. And then since we don't have any redirect, it will not redirect us anywhere. We can return back to that form. Let's go by using this button back to the editor. Let's jump to the sign and send field. And what we can do here is we can make this a bit wider. This one as well, so that it looks symmetrical. And this field here, we can make it also a little bit bigger by clicking here on the right hand side and saying, okay, let's make the width 600 and the height maybe 300. So the users can sign a little bit better. And then of course you will have to save it. And then if you go to preview mode, it took over that that theme that we changed here. If you remember, I was showing you the theme when I scrolled here down, and of course I did not jump back to the previous theme, so it took it yet as the new theme, but it doesn't matter. It looks very nice. And if we go here now to the last section, yeah, it is also a nice moment to show you this. You can also put here some mandatory fields which does not allow the user to go further. Now, so let's add here a new record, test. Let's fill this out real quick. And let's go next, test, select files. So add only one now, next. And you can see that now the signature date field looks very nice, and the signature field is much larger, no? So it's a bit easier for the user. Okay, so that's it with the editing of the Plumsail forms, and also showing you how this preview mode works, or how the form itself looks like. Let's take a look at the submissions section here back in the editor, so that we see how the submitted values look like. So let's click there, and here we'll land then at the account from that Plumsail forms user, so in this case for me. And this is our application. So we'll only send it once. The second one I did show you, I did not submit it. So this is just one that I have submitted at 12:25. So we can see this data here. Let's click view. And here you can see it a bit nicely, because this table data, it's a bit difficult to view it in that one row. So I will always recommend, if you use these fields, to click on view for each one of them, so that you can view them a bit nicer. Also the signature here. And we have some more information here, like submission ID, created and modified. Now, this submission ID will be important later in Power Automate, so that we can grab this information. Okay, so I think this is it for the Plumsail section. So let's jump to SharePoint, build our SharePoint list where we're going to save this data, and then move on to Power Automate so that we can grab this data and then put it in our SharePoint list. But before doing that, there's something I forgot to show you, and that is the option here when where we can see the submitted form values. No, here, as I showed you before, if you want, for example, to view your one of the submitted forms, you can click on this view option here, and then you can print it for him. I think also very helpful to know. And one last thing, let's close that. And what you can do here is you can click this form option, and this will open the form with the data that the user entered. Imagine a scenario where the user said, okay, I entered so many data fields and I made a mistake. Can you please correct that via email? And then you don't want the user to go on and start putting all the data from scratch. So that way you can go into this application and say, okay, in this resume section here, they forgot to add one part of the data, and let's do that for them, and let's click finish. So that way you are resubmitting this. So you're not editing, it will pop up as a second submitted version. So you will have to either delete the first one or however you would like to handle that. And but this way you save a lot of time for yourself and also for the user. And last but not least, what you can do from here is you can save it as a PDF. No? So you can export this this submitted version as a PDF. Okay, so now let's move to Power Automate and SharePoint. Okay, so to save you some time, I skipped the part where I show you how I put these columns together, because I think we've seen that too many times and you already know how to put a SharePoint list together. If you don't, let me know in the comments or watch one of my older videos. But that does still go through of the columns that I've created here because of the types that we need to showcase that data. And we have here, I've edited the title, the standard title column from SharePoint list when you create a new one, into position. And we have here the desired salary, first name, last name, and so on and so forth. What you need to take care is some columns that you're going to need if you want to display those tables, and that's signature. So for the tables, I have here this employment history, and this is formatted, or this is a multiple lines of text column. The reason why we need this is going to be easier to understand in the next video, where we speak about Plumsail forms for SharePoint, because that's where we edit these types of columns to be able to show us those tables. And also the signature. The signature is that ink input that we have in our form. That's also a similar type of column. If we show it here, second. It's also a multiple lines of text column so that we can view those signatures later on. We will not do that in this video. You will see that the values that will come into this SharePoint list will not be displaying the signature and the employment history the way we want it, because I want to save that for the next videos where we see how we can customize this with Plumsail forms for SharePoint. But just for a quick pick, I'm going to show you how that will look like. And we see here in the documentation from Plumsail, this part here is how it displays how it's going to look like. So this test is our signature, and this data table is our data table from forms. And this is how it's going to look like in our SharePoint list row, which I think looks really neat and looks very easy to understand and to read. As I said, this we'll go through on the next video. Okay, so that's it with the SharePoint list. It's pretty straightforward. We are just moving the data in here. So now let's move to Power Automate so that I can show you how Power Automate can grab that information from Plumsail forms and put it into this list. So for that, I'm going to move here to my Power Automate client or Power Automate site, and I'm going to start by creating an automated cloud flow. I'm going to name this job application form flow, something like that, and I'm going to search here for Plumsail. My form is submitted. That's the one we need. Create. And now here is complaining that the connection is not valid. So let's fix that real quick. I'm going to select here the account that I used on my previous video as well. And after doing that, it's not complaining anymore. And in the dropdown, I can select my forms. I only have one, the one we created together. So I'm going to select that. And so that we prepare for the next part, we are going to use here two compose actions to grab the data from our signature and also from our table. So let's search here for compose, click that, and here in the dynamic values we can see that the history as for the employment history is called history. Let's select that and let's see why that is called history, because if we go to our application here in the editor and we select this this table, which is a history of that application, of the deployment, we see in the right hand side that the title, the one that we can see here, is this over here, this long text, and the name, which is also the internal name, is called history. That's why in Power Automate you can see it only as history. So what you can do here is click copy action, and here in the plus button we can paste that action, and let's make sure that we rename this real quick. So the first one is the history, and the second one is going to be our signature. Okay, so let's remove that and let's search for signature in the form is submitted section, so that it is. Okay, so now we have these two values that we're going to need for later on to be able to write them in our SharePoint list. And next, we are going to finalize this short workflow by searching here for add an item or create an item. That should bring us the same. An item in SharePoint. So I'm going to search here for my SharePoint list site first. Sorry, project management. My SharePoint list name is called a job application form. And here's going to show me those columns that we need to use. Let's show all. And that one I don't need. So the title, as I said, is my position here, the job position, the desired. So I'm going to search, oh, there it is, position, desired salary. It should be somewhere, maybe the description. Let's check it out how it's called. So it should be this one here, and it's called description. And so it's very easy to find out how your columns are called in the back end, so at Plumsail. So the signature date, it should be our signature date, and the signature is again the one coming from our compose action. Okay, so that was already it. Our very straightforward Power Automate workflow should now be able to bring the data in our SharePoint list. So let's save it and click test. We're going to do a manual test and leave it now in this state so that it waits for our submitted values. Let's go back here and click preview so that we can fill out this form one more time. So this time I'm a software engineer. So here you noticed also, I noticed now that we are missing the part where we grab that those attachments, because it's something that we need. So let's go back to editing real quick. Okay, so now that we have our create item, what we're missing is for our attached files to be also saved in that created item. We don't have those attached files with the form is submitted action. What we need to do is we need to do an extra action here, which is called, let's search for Plumsail, and it should come up. Let's grab this download attachment action. This is the one we need. The file URL, which is the URL of the file that the user uploads in the form, is also called URL. And this will create and apply to each loop, because the user might upload one or more file. What we can do here is we can change these places here, because we can create the item and then grab the file, and in that loop where we download the attachment, we can add here the action of adding the attachment into that item. So let's search here for attachment. And in our SharePoint connector, we have this add attachment action here. Let's select the SharePoint site and the SharePoint list. So application, the SharePoint list item ID is ID from our create item action that we did before. The file name will be coming from this file action here, or file dynamic value, and the file content is from the result file from download attachments. It says also here the contents of the attachment. Okay, so let's test this out. Let's click save and select here test. I'm going to do a manual test, click test, and let's go back to our Plumsail forms. So I had started populating this a little bit. So what is missing here is the next section, which is a signature date. Let's put the date from today, and I'm going to do a signature here, and I'm going to click finish. So now this is sending the data, and Power Automate should be able to grab the data from me. Let's go here, and it looks like it ran successfully. This is still running, and suppose it takes a bit longer to grab the files, depending on how big they are. And let's go to our SharePoint list and see here the data that we just entered. So this here is the 2 points that I mentioned before. As you can see, these are not displaying correctly now. Before we continue, let's do something here. I want to add that attachments column so that we can see if our attachments are in place. And there they are. So we have our attachments here, the ones that we uploaded. And again, these 2 columns are not displaying correctly because those are, first, this is an image column. You can see here data as an image PNG. We could create this as an image in a separate library maybe. That will be not a big deal, but we want to show this data in this row. And the most important is also this table format. What you can also do, of course, is you can split the table for each row and then add that as a separate row in a separate list, and then maybe create a one-to-many relationship. But we want to showcase it here. For that, let me show it to you again. We will have to customize this SharePoint list by using Plumsail Forms for SharePoint. That's a really neat tool, really cool, and makes you show your SharePoint list like this, where you can display signatures and tables and many more stuff. So I hope you liked it. Stick around for the next video where we're going to go through this section and see how that looks like. And if you did like the video, please make sure that you give the thumbs up and that you subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss the next video. Thanks for watching. Have fun. Bye.